All right, to my limitless learners, so looking over the standards here, and they want you to know basically it says the major battles of the European theaters of war, including the tactic. It doesn't say that, but the Blitzkrieg. If you remember back to World War One, real quick, and if you're bullets in these things, World War One was an entrenched warfare on the Western Front. It took forever. It was a stalemate. And if you remember the Schlieffen plan, where Germany comes to northern Belgium here, because that's all plains. I just got back from Belgium, beautiful country, northern Belgium. It's all flat for the most part. It's really easy to get across. The Schlieffen plan said we'll come through France, and that works. But they get to Paris, and Great Britain has come to help France. Remember, and they push the German army back across the Rhine River. It was called the Miracle of Marne, and they become entrenched. Germany did not want to get into that again. So they adopt a new form of warfare uh, called lightning warfare or Blitzkrieg. The Nazi army or the German army never used the term Blitzkrieg. That comes later. Actually, a British author in the 1950s termed it Blitzkrieg. The reason Blitzkrieg was possible for the German army was because that they had ramped up their industrial capabilities in the 1930s, violating every part of the Treaty of Versailles, which was understandable because they were so messed up in that Treaty of Versailles that they really had no choice. So Germany ramps up their industrial capabilities. They've got jeeps, they've got tanks, airplanes, trains, road systems. The Autobahn was fully complete where they could move equipment very quickly across Germany. So if anybody was looking at this, like especially France and Great Britain, Belgium, if anybody had a scope on Germany during the early 1930s, they would go, "Oh my Lord, here we go again. They're getting ramped up. They're ready to fight." But nobody really checks Germany on that. Matter of fact, by 1938 and 39, Hitler is one of the most popular, loved people in Western Europe and the United States. He won Time Magazine Man of the Year. Um, the Olympics were held in Berlin. So nobody's really checking this military might that Germany's working on in the 1930s. On top of that, Germany has a deal with USSR, the Soviet Union. If you remember back to previous activity, the Ribbentrop and the Molotov deal, basically called the Nazi-Soviet deal, that said Stalin and Hitler would stay out of each other's way, and they would carve up Eastern Europe. If you're looking at my pointer here, all these bloc countries, they would carve that up evenly between the two. Okay, that happens in 1939. Immediately when Germany makes this deal with the Soviet Union, they know they've got to act quick. Right there, Poland's in their crosshairs. Great Britain, okay, had made a deal with Poland. If anybody messes with you, we're going to come in and check that. So on September 1st, Germany invades Poland and it quickly falls using their Blitzkrieg tactics of lightning war, airplanes, trains, jeeps, tanks, all at once coming at you. So they fall quickly. On September 3rd, Great Britain and France declare war on Germany. No surprise. Now we have an all-out war in Western Europe once again. Why do I say all out? Well, Spain's kind of out of things because they've got a huge civil war going on right now in the late 1930s. So Germany knows they're going to have to deal with France next. In the spring of 1940, remember 1939, Poland falls, Czechoslovakia falls, Austria had already been annexed by Germany earlier. Germany's going to invade France in the spring of 1940. Okay? Where do you think the French and the British, where do you think the Germans are going to come from? Of course, they think right through northern Belgium right here. Again, because it's the easiest way to get across. So in a stroke of military genius here, what Hitler does, and I don't know if it was him or his military commanders, but they said, let's send some small forces here. And we're going to trick France and Great Britain into thinking that we're sending all of our might here. What they did was they sent all of their might through the south of Belgium. Trust me, this Bible I just got back from Belgium, and southern Belgium is rough. It's a rough area, but you know, France and Great Britain is the least expected area. Germany comes through the southern part. Now Great Britain and France are fully exposed and pinched against the English Channel. Have you heard the movie Dunkirk? This is where Dunkirk. It's called the Dunkirk evacuation. Was it a glorious thing? It's pretty cool. I mean, you know, maybe movie worthy, but what happens is there's about 400, 500,000 troops in northern France here that are pinched. They have nowhere to go, and their backs are to the wall. They cannot really fight against a full German force coming at them here. So what happens is Great Britain, the people here that are on the southern coast, send fishing boats. The reason that they can't get big wartime ships into Dunkirk is because it's a small port. They would have ran aground, so they couldn't get to the port. They had to send small fishing boats and private leisure boats over to the northern part of France in a war zone to pick up injured troops and troops that were trying to get back across the English Channel to be re-engaged in battle, because France was a lost cause. After Germany pulls its hoodwink right here, France is done because all the military forces cut off. Paris is wide open, and France falls quickly. The miracle of Dunkirk is that they saved about 400,000, or a little less than 400,000 Allied troops to be re-entered into battle. So Dunkirk evacuation happens here in the northern part of France. The next thing on your timeline that picks up is the battle for Britain, and that starts with massive bombings by Nazi Germany over London and southern parts of Great Britain. So there's your first two things. The Blitzkrieg, lightning war, that's the tactic that the Germans will use all through the war, coming at you with everything we got as quickly as possible. And the first major military engagement is a humongous failure for Great Britain and France. It was called the evacuation of Dunkirk because the Germans outsmarted them here and come through the southern part of Belgium and the northern part of Luxembourg, and they pinch those Allied forces here. And they had to evacuate over to Great Britain. The reason that is so fantastic is because civilians and people poured out to volunteer their boats to get the soldiers back across to Great Britain. So there's those two things. If you have any questions, let me know. Your timeline is the other activity. I have a couple of questions on Blitzkrieg and Dunkirk here. And if you need anything, let me know.